I think that's actually a perfect message to lead into the next segment, the brand new segment here on the Talking Yu-Gi-Oh! Show, the hot take phase. We got hot takes from a bunch of people in the community. We are going to be showing them on screen. Some we are going to be playing the audio of. And I am going to let you know if I think they are hot, mild, or freezing cold. And I will also let you know if I think they are, if I agree with the opinion or don't. Different than buy, sell, hold, of course, because buy, sell, hold was more a game where it's these theories. These are opinions on shows, characters, whatnot. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I think it is ready to begin the hot take phase. We got the hot take-o-meter down at the bottom. That is how I will be rating how hot, muy caliente, or how cold I think your takes are. A little Spanish there. Cal, you impressed with that, man?
I'm not going to lie to you. I mouthed to myself when you said if they're hot, and I mouthed to myself, muy caliente, like, and said it like in my head. So it's really funny when you just yelled that right now. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Love that.
So
all
good
right.
work. Good work out of you.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank Natalie again with the insane donation. Thank you so much, Natalie. All right, my friend, where are we starting? Cal, what is the first take that we got?
All right, so the first one here, it's got two takes on it, but I'm going to read you the one that I think is hotter. And that one is the hot take: a faithful adaptation of the original manga made nowadays would be canceled before finishing.
Wow. That, dude, I think that is a hot take. I think that is, first of all, there's so many people that want there to be exactly this product. But to say if we got this product, which is a faithful adaptation of the original manga, and that it would do so poorly that it would be canceled before it finished, that is a crazy hot take. I don't think that I can agree with that. But it is interesting, right? Sometimes people clamor for something over and over and over and over. This is something that people have clamored for a very long time, a faithful one-to-one adaptation of the original Yu-Gi-Oh manga. Would people actually watch it? Would people actually support it? To say that it would do so poorly that it would be canceled before finishing, that is a step too far for me. I can't agree with that, but you know what? Overall, that is absolutely a hot take. Absolutely. That is a hot take. I mean,
Muy caliente.
I mean, Dak, we've seen comments like that all the time, but to say that it would bomb is crazy.
Yeah. I've tried to think of that from every angle. You know, if it just was like, oh, canceled because of just the content, but then there's definitely gorier and worse, stuff out there. So I can't think it's that. To think from it doing poorly. I mean, I can't imagine it would do that badly. Again, there's much worse that's been out than that.
Well, but the thing is, Dak, too. I don't know if you would have your card game Yu-Gi-Oh fans caring about 40 episodes that have nothing to do with the card game. I don't know. Like, from that perspective, I can kind of get where they're coming from.
Sure, but I mean, at the same time, there's a lot of the anime fandom, and I'd argue probably a decent chunk of the core, even the card game fandom that, still kind of hold Season 0 in that higher, kind of a nostalgia regard. There's a lot of people who I know would love to see it fully, released, fully, remastered, and as part of the show, because I mean, it's just a big piece of that kind of Yu-Gi-Oh history that, I mean, there's tons of people out there who haven't seen it, and they'd potentially be able to watch for the first time and experience all the crazy dark beginnings of the show, and to do it faithfully, makes it a little more twisted, which might draw on people who enjoy things like Death Parade or some of those other kind of games, and that kind of shows, as well. So it's I can see where it has that reach and that potential, and then hopefully as the card game gets introduced, the idea being, they like this game a lot. I want to try that game. Kind of draw them in.
They only
I can see some of that mindset too.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
They got one with dice now.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, well, that's whatever. Guess they didn't like that one that much.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, Dag, what is the first one that you got for me, man?
Yeah. So for a nice little opinion here, for all of the damage Arc 5's ending did to the franchise, I think it was the one time Yu-Gi-Oh had been back in the mainstream since 5Ds and deserves some praise for accomplishing that.
Well, anything that has to do with Arc 5 deserving praise, I think is inherently a pretty big hot take. But you know what? I'm in full agreement with this. And I think that a lot of people would reject this, and that's why I think it is genuinely a hot take. But I think, dude, the amount of people that got back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime when Jack Atlas was announced, when Alexis Rhodes was announced, when Crow was announced to be appearing in this show was absolutely unbelievable. And there are so many people that would comment on my Arc 5 video saying, I dropped Yu-Gi-Oh! After 5Ds. I dropped Yu-Gi-Oh! After GX. I haven't watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Since the original. I actually do agree with this. I think the shame of it is a lot of people came back to Arc 5, and then because of how a lot of people disliked the ending, they just, that was it. Like, that was it with them in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think you can say, sure, Arc 5 does deserve some praise for accomplishing that, but at the same time, I do think it did some pretty irreparable damage. Maybe that's harsh, but some pretty irreparable damage to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, at least the outskirts of it. But yeah, I would agree with that. I think that is a hot take because I don't think a lot of people would want to admit that, but I agree with it. Cal, what's our next one, man?
Okay, the next hot take is, my hot take is I don't like Yugi vs. Kaiba duel in Battle City because the amount of flashbacks that happen in between them breaks the tension, in my opinion. Still a good duel, though.
Well, this is a take that I have seen many times. I'm not going to say it's a cold take, but I will say it's a mild take because I've seen this take many, many times. And I can't say it's a cold take. Listen, to me, Yugi versus Kaiba Battle City is the greatest duel in the franchise. I've said that many times. My opinion hasn't changed on it. But I have seen this as the counter argument to that. The counter argument with that duel is almost never the dueling quality is bad, the monster summons are boring, the Yugi Kaiba stuff is boring. The criticisms have always been, hey, the Joey duel that's going on in his mind, like, what the hell is that about? The cutaways, like, are we breaking up the tension? We're extending this duel. Those are understandable takes to have. I've seen those takes a lot. I don't think it's cold, but I am going to say mild because I think it's still, saying that you don't like that duel, I think is certainly a take. But because I've seen it before with the cutaway stuff, I'll put it as mild. Yeah, but nice. Love that one.
Okay.
Who do we got next? Dak, what do we got next, man?
Yeah, so this next one here, we have one of our voicemails because it ties in pretty well to
perfect.
One of our next takes. All right, so then here we go, and this should be from Natalie, if I remember correctly.
Love it. Awesome.
Hey, Dylan. This is Natalie.
Raise it a little bit, Dak.
Your favorite Saz, I assume. Anywho, I wanted to tell you my hot take.
Bungo
and
Stray
my
Dogs.
hot take is that the final season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Yami Yugi versus Bakura could have been done better because of the amount of times like it breaks away from that duel, and it could have been structured a lot better. Yeah, that's my hot take for that.
Well, Natalie, thank you so much for the call-in. Very similar to what we got with Silver's take on the Yugi Kaiba stuff with the cutaways. You know, I feel
and the same as Arietta's.
Same as Arietta's, yeah. I feel like I have to almost keep that as mild. Because I've seen that take a lot of times, and I think, but at the same time, like Yugi versus Bakura, I think it's like one of the best duels in the show. I don't think it's as good as Yugi Kaiba Battle City, but I still think it's a really good show. Maybe the cutaways for certain duels don't bother me as much as they do other people. I mean, I think it's a fair opinion to have. I can't say it's a cold take because, again, it's being critical of a well-regarded duel, which I respect. I respect the spiciness of that. But I can't say it's like a hot take because I've seen it many times. But that being said, I think it's a good one. Natalie, thanks so much for calling in. Really, really cool. Thank you, Natalie. Dak, do we have another voicemail?
But it should be pretty clear here.
So I was told that I needed to call in and give you my Yu-Gi-Oh! Hot takes. I don't know how hot these takes are actually going to be, but they're kind of in the same vein. The first one being that we should have seen Joey actually dueling the Pharaoh for Battle City to earn his Red Eyes back, and he should have won.
Ooh.
That's just my opinion. And then I also think
spicy.
that Joey has gotten the opportunity to actually beat Kaiba on screen at some point, just because, you know, the general way that Kaiba treats him. He just deserved to have a win, and those are my hot takes.
Well, what a lovely caller, Dak. Anything you want to say about the caller there? What a lovely caller.
Oh, great caller. Top tier. Probably the best caller we'll ever have.
Well, let me tell you this. I'm also going to say this is mild because I think to say we should have seen Yugi versus Joey is like ice cold because I think most people feel that way. But to go the next step and to say Joey should have beaten Yugi, I think there's a little bit of spiciness in that. I also think that there's spiciness in saying Joey should have beaten Kaiba. I never interpreted that Joey surpassed Kaiba as a duelist. So I never really had that feeling, and I think a lot of people probably feel that way. But I think to go out on a limb and say, no, he deserved to beat Kaiba, I think that's a good take. I think it's an interesting take, and I have it as a mild take. I like it.
I will say to slightly devil advocate you, I also think that Joey should have beaten Kaiba, not necessarily surpassing him, but the perfect spot for him to beat Kaiba and humble him a little bit even further would have been right after Battle City in the filler Battle for the Bronze episodes. That would have been the perfect spot for Joey just to beat him while he's down a little bit more so, and kind of humble him a little bit.
I think it would have been interesting if Joey won that duel though, because I would have really been convinced that the writers hate Seto Kaiba, because if you think about what they do to him in the filler arcs, right? Noah Kaiba needs Yugi to bail him out. Darts needs Yugi to bail him out, and then we get
He beat Siegfried.
Oh, he beat Siegfried, yeah. And then we get Kaiba Joey as a filler duel, and he loses to Joey. I would have just felt like, man, these writers hate Seto Kaiba, but it's an interesting take for sure. It's interesting for sure. Cool, really cool. What is the next one we got, Calibro? And thank you, of course, to the two wonderful ladies calling in. Huge thank you.
Yep. Here we go. We got another hot take here from Colin. So my hot take, the Rush era Yu-Gi-Oh shows have the most creatively unique duels out of all the shows. From robot duels on the moon in Sevens, to the Lug cloning themselves to make a 2v2 duel instead of a 2v1, to the Galaxy Cup 1v3 gauntlet duel, and especially the finale of Go Rush, having a 6-turn duel that actually ended on turn 5 because of the turn jumping that occurred.
He also left out Yugioh drawing a card that got banned in Seven's Road Magician against Roa. Listen, I think this is a cold take. I think this is our first cold take. I think anybody that's watched the Rush shows should be in agreement with this. I genuinely do. I think, and I gave Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens and Go Rush so much credit during its runtime by saying props to them for continuing to do new things that we have never seen before in the previous 6 adaptations of Yu-Gi-Oh! DM through Vrains. That's hard to do. There's not many duels I can look at in Arc 5 and Vrains and say, wow, we've never seen that before. That is hard to do. So, honestly, maybe this is a hot take if you're someone who hates Rush. But if you watched Sevens and Go Rush, which I have, I think it's a cold take. I'm in full agreement with this. I think they did insanely unique duels and creative things, and I love the show for that reason. So, yeah, love the take there, Colin. I'm in full agreement, but I think for the people that watched it, it's a cold take. Yeah. Dak, we got another one.
Baby.
Yeah. I've got another one here for you, and that is going to be a hot take that the GX reboot is hot garbage, and we should get a Yu-Gi-Oh 9.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're staying in the freezer. We're staying in the freezer because this is also an ice cold take. First of all, we should get a Yu-Gi-Oh 9, of course. I imagine that Mark here meant GX remaster because we have not gotten a GX reboot. I can count on one hand the amount of people that to this day keep up with the GX remaster that I know of. One person. The amount of times I stream a week, 4 or 5 times a week, and the amount of times people come in and say, oh, did you see episode 30 of the GX remaster? It's never happened. in any of my streams. Nobody cares about the GX disaster. It's absolutely hot garbage. And, you know, the fact that these shots in the remaster is like cropping away headshots of characters and monsters, and you've already had animators come out and say, at least with DM, that like, yeah, not really a big fan of how they remastered it. The whole thing's a disaster. It's a disaster, dude. So, ice cold take, and another take that I 100% agree with. 100% agree with.
So this next take here is my hot take, is that Manjome in the anime is way better than the manga. He's a more layered character and breaks the stereotype that all rivals need to be powerful with beatdown decks. He goes against that trope and shows that even the weakest of cards can be useful if a duelist fully understands them. Plus, his whole arc on Season 1 is one of the best moments on the anime as well.
I gotta tell you, I think this is a hot take. I think this is a hot take. Not that I disagree with this take, but I think if you polled a majority of people would say they prefer manga Chaz over anime Chaz. But if you like, I mean, I think they're correct. I think they're correct in saying they break the stereotype and the trope that most Yu-Gi-Oh rivals are. Manjome is certainly a very unique rival, and I think you have to have an enjoyment for that type of character. I thought he was such a badass in the manga. Like, I thought he was like more than your kind of generic rival in the manga. Like, I thought he was just such a cool freaking badass. But you know what? There were a lot of things that he did in the anime that were different, that were unique. It was an interesting route they went with this character. I liked him a lot. By the end of the show in season 4, you know, when he duels Edo and defeats Edo. And that goofiness is something that a lot of people love about anime Chaz. But to say that anime Chaz is way better than manga Chaz, definitely a hot take. So love that. Love that. And that is, of course, that came in from Kuroy, which, by the way, that is a huge #1 Chaz fan, I will say, in the world. I have no problem making that claim. Thank you, Kuroy, for writing that in. Yeah, back to the hotness. All right, what is our last hot take here, Cal?
All right, last hot take here. We have the hot take. Even by some miracle, if Season 4 of GX got dubbed, it wouldn't be any good because they could probably cut a lot of stuff.
I'm gonna say mild. I'm leaning towards cold, but I'm gonna say mild, and I'll explain why. I think I'll say mild because this is something that, when you talk about what people have clamored for years, one of the things people have clamored for so long, of course, is a manga adaptation for DM. Another thing on the English side is the Season 4 of GX getting dubbed, but I think that comes with a caveat. I think a lot of people know that if GX Season 4 got dubbed, that season would be changed and censored to hell. The only reason I'll say wouldn't be any good is because there is a little bit of subjectiveness in there. I think there's a lot of people that view GX almost as a comedy show, and the GX dub, I should say, as an abridged take. If you treat the official Yu-Gi-Oh! GX dub as an abridged take on the GX anime, it's actually quite enjoyable, in my opinion. Of course, you know, whether that's a good thing or not remains to be seen. But I think there's people that know that it would be censored, but still want it because they enjoy the goofiness of the GX dub. So that's why I'll say mild. It's something that, by the way, I've talked to people over at Konami. It's something that will never happen unless something major changes. But yeah, cool. Hot take phase. Love it, boys. Very, very fun. First time we're doing that segment. Muy caliente. We had a couple of hots, we had a couple of milds, couple of colds. Definitely. If you guys want to comment down below your hot takes, please do. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.